Good afternoon, YTPC. Big Casper here, coming to you from a secluded location in west central Ohio. Coming to you today to do a little bit more of an introduction and plus to do a VR to LaTx Piper. I found his channel a month ago or so. I've really enjoyed his content. If you haven't checked out LaTx Piper, he's up and coming there. He's reached a gall giveaway. Congratulations on your sub. The questions he's asked for his VR that allows me to do a little bit more of an introduction is he's asked, what do you do? So let me talk a little bit about what I do. Well, first of all, to start out, I was absolutely at the top of the class in high school in math and science, and looking into what I would do and testing out, back then they gave you aptitude tests and everything, and it said I should be an engineer. So I enrolled in an engineering college. Back in those days, it's called General Motors Institute. At that college, you started co-oping your very first semester. So I co-oped at Frigidaire in Dayton, which at that time was owned by General Motors. And I did my co-oping there and did my schooling up in Flint, Michigan. Now it's called Kettering University up there in Flint. It's been, GM sold that college, and now it's called Kettering University. And you can co-op at other corporations besides General Motors. But I co-op there, and there, that was absolutely the great career choice for me. I mean, as far as schooling, I did very well there too in math and physics and calculus, just exceptional at that, and I really enjoyed that time there. While I was there, that was back in the mid 70s, and there I discovered just the joy of these little well, actually, they weren't even microprocessors at that time. They were just little silicon chips. And I just fell in love with the fact that you could take these chips, you could read conditions in the real world, and you could light lights and do other things in the real world. And once I discovered you could do that, I just never wanted to do anything else. So coming out of school, though, GM sold Frigidaire. And so I found out that my job was moving from Ohio to Benton Harbor, Michigan, and that might have been a great place to live, but I elected not to do that. And at that time, I grew up in a very Christian home, and I was feeling like the call into ministry. And so instead of going to Benton Harbor where my job went, I instead enrolled in seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. And like I said, there I just fell in love with the biblical languages, Hebrew and Greek, and just got a master's degree in biblical languages there in seminary. And also the other thing that happened there, I met the love of my life, just an amazing woman that now we've been together now for 37 years, and every day is a new adventure. I love my wife. We have a great life together, and she's just been my soulmate. So there, I said from that, when I graduated from seminary, then, I went on to pastor churches. I grew up in a small country church, and all I knew then at that time was to be a full-time pastor in a local church. And so I pastored churches in inner city Columbus, Ohio. I pastored a church in inner city Boston, Massachusetts for a couple of years, and I pastored a church in Alexandria, Louisiana. My wife went back there to finish up a master's degree in nursing. But like I said, along that line, I just was not happy being a full-time pastor of a small local church. That just wasn't for me. I was not satisfied in that job. That was reflected in my health. I went from, when I graduated seminary, I weighed about 185 pounds, and by the mid 80s, I was over 350 pounds, and I just was not real happy. So I called a guy that I had went to college with, and he was actually was the head of software engineering at Hobart Manufacturing, the maker of, like I said, they made Waywrap products for grocery stores. So I went to work for him writing embedded software for grocery store scales. So chances are, if you've shopped in a Walmart in the past 20 years, the label that was printed when they weighed your product out at the deli counter to tell you how much you were going to pay, I wrote the software that did all of that. That was my job for many years. I enjoyed that job. around just about 2000, then Hobart had been bought out by a larger company, Illinois Tool Works, and it really changed the corporate climate. And several of us engineers were just not happy there. There was an idea that they were not going to develop at Hobart, that we decided we would take that technology, and that technology was electronic shelf labels for grocery stores. And I was just persuaded at that time that that was just the coming thing, and that was going to be a great business to be in. And so I went to work for them pretty much as their only software guy. I did all the software for the system. We developed the system. We actually deployed that system throughout the Southwest at Whole Foods markets. So if you've been at a Whole Foods market in Texas, you may have seen some of our shelf labels. But really, that idea, as great as I thought it was, just never really caught on. So here I find myself in my early 60s, and that job kind of has declined quite a bit. I mean, in fact, like I said, I'm not really working there right now. I am seeking other opportunities. I've got things to do, but right now as an engineer, I've not been working full-time for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months now. But I'm not worried about that. Pretty good shape. Because the other thing that happened back when I left my last church as a full-time pastor, I felt called to what you would call bivocational ministry. And what that means is you hold a full-time job, and then as a second full-time job, I was involved in planning a local church here in my local community. I met another young man that came here to plant a church, and I joined together with him. And we started out, like I said, I play the guitar and I sing, or at least I try to play the guitar, but it was successful enough that I led, we were meeting in his home at first. We would just be playing worship choruses, and then he would lead a Bible study, and we did that for a while, and then, we started meeting in a local high school, like I said, and met there for about a year. Then we moved into a local movie theater for another 7 or 8 years that we ran the church. We had the church out of there, and basically we would just go around the community and meet folks that were also disillusioned with church, and talk to them about what would you think if you came to a church that was very different. So we put together a pretty different kind of church, I think, that met the needs here in our local community. And like I said, that church now, we moved into a much larger building. We probably, I don't know, I was just, like I said, there this morning. I'll bet we had 350 people is about what we have in attendance now at that church. And it's just been an amazing opportunity there. I've continued to, the other pastor, Jonathan, preaches most Sundays, but I still get the opportunity to preach on occasion and do other Bible studies and home groups and things like that. And just am having a real good time. We've planted another church in inner city Dayton. We're working now on planting a church in inner city Cleveland. And I said also we've branched out into foreign work. We're actually working in the hills of southern Mexico in a group way up in the mountains. A smaller group there that had never experienced the gospel, had no idea about it, and we've been working there for a couple of years now, telling Bible stories and just doing community work in that community there in southern Mexico. And that's just been an amazing time, an amazing adventure. Along the way, I've just met many, many great people. It's just amazing to me how God brings together the people that you need. I mean, like I said, my skills as a worship leader from the guitar weren't up to leading a congregation of 350 people, but along the way, God brought us some very gifted musicians, some very talented musicians. I could do well just when it was me and a guitar and my voice, but when we started adding drums and bass and other things, I just wasn't really up to the task. But we got another young man that was very gifted at that, and he's come along, and plus we've got a lot of other great leaders, and it's just been a great adventure. So what do? I do that a lot. Like I said, I'm still looking for other opportunities. Like I said, and I have those, but I haven't decided yet exactly what I want to do. Like I said, with the last couple years of my career, but it's been a wonderful ride, and thank you very much for listening to this ramble.